Shipwrecks of the Outer Banks, Graveyard of the Atlantic. There are over 2,000 shipwrecks in the waters off the North Carolina Outer Banks, known as the Graveyard of the Atlantic, which stretches from Currituck to Bogue Banks. One of the first, the English galleass Tiger, grounded off Ocracoke Island in 1585. A wide variety of ships rest in her waters, including schooners, tugs, steamers, barks, submarines, tankers, freighters, and barges, fishing trawlers, cargo and passenger ships, federal gunboats, recreational vessels, brigs, hulks and clippers, packets, privateers, and lightships. Ships have wrecked off the Outer Banks due to nature, war, piracy, mystery, and human error. Winds blowing from the northeast and the southwest form longshore currents at the capes. These currents transport sand to create shoals, sandy, shallow areas that are difficult to see. Why did sailors navigate close to the shoals if they were dangerous? Sailors used the major trade routes, the Gulf Stream and the Labrador Current, that converge off the Outer Banks to gain time. Wind and waves from storms that form offshore pushed many vessels onto shoals. Once grounded like a sitting duck, a ship can quickly be torn apart by wind and waves. Severely damaged in Hurricane San Ciriaco in 1899, the barkentine Priscilla eventually washed ashore. Piracy played a role in wrecking ships. They targeted the busy shipping routes that passed the Outer Banks and found secluded hideouts on the nearby islands that were surrounded by shallow water. Pirates could plunder and, at times, wreck ships and retreat in small, fast sloops that could navigate the shallow water where big ships could not follow. Wars contributed to shipwrecks found off the Outer Banks. In World War II alone, approximately 86 Allied vessels and 4 U-boats were sunk in the Graveyard of the Atlantic, subsequently dubbed Torpedo Junction. Shipwrecks also were caused by human error. During World War II, F.W. Abrams went off course and was hit by Allied mines. The schooner A. Ernest Mills sank after colliding off Currituck with the destroyer Childs. The effects of shipwrecks were many, including the improvement of life-saving efforts and the building of additional stations along the coast. Wreck reports show that lifesavers provided sustenance to countless shipwreck survivors. They buried the victims with reverence, and the life-saving stations provided a place for the survivors to stay until they could find passage off the island. Timber washed ashore and was used in building island homes. Auctions were officially scheduled to sell shipwrecked goods, bringing normally inaccessible items to coastal folk. Above all else, heroism and compassion were demonstrated in extraordinary measures to survivors and victims. Surfman Erasmus Midget rescued 10 survivors by himself from the wreck of Priscilla when he realized that there was no time to go back to the station for additional help. He received the highest award for his bravery, the Gold Life-Saving Medal of Honor, which is on display in the museum. The rescue of E.S. Newman also stands out as a remarkable event in life-saving history. The Pea Island Life-Saving Station surfmen responded to the ship in distress. The weather was so violent that the usual life-saving methods could not be used. Keeper Richard Etheridge left, the first black life-saving station keeper in U.S. history, asked for volunteers to swim through hurricane seas to perform a rescue. Tied together, 2 at a time, several men swam 9 times to rescue the remaining survivors. Due to prejudice, the lifesavers were not awarded gold medals of honor. In the 1990s, this was rectified with descendants receiving the medals. Today, shipwrecks and their artifacts are studied to gain a greater understanding of global, national, and local events, people, places, eras, and technology. The graveyard of the Atlantic Museum is dedicated to presenting this segment of maritime history and culture. Enjoy the many shipwreck and maritime artifacts on display at the museum.